So we have coined this new category called FinFra, right? Financial technology infrastructure. We're not a fintech in its typical sense, where we're providing an application of a product or a service that's a financial widget. We are providing access to a payment capability at the rails. When you look globally at what's happened, like in most jurisdictions, that you need to be a bank to access the rails. And in Australia, legislation and reform is coming to enable a greater access for all fintech community to drive innovation, and in particular drive competition for pricing services, better technology, greater efficiencies. But that will always need to be done with a high level of regulation and governance. And we'll see over the coming years how that emerges and how that legislation evolves to enable access. But for the time being, it is really important that the level required to do that is high, because we are providing critical payment financial services that have real meaningful impact for the economy in a lot of ways. So yeah, Australia is leading the world in terms of payment systems reform and in terms of real-time payment applications beyond peer-to-peer and beyond the early adopters into more mainstream use cases. I think we at Zepto, and I speak on behalf of a broader fintech community, we are very privileged to be part of an ecosystem in Australia that does enable and has a waypoint on the horizon to enable access at a certain level that most jurisdictions globally don't have and aren't thinking about. But with that access will come great responsibility. And for all of us at a fintech ecosystem level, we need to sort of work hard with the regulators to unlock that. That is incredibly exciting. Yes, it's daunting. Yes, there's a lot of work, but what that enables us is to create and pioneer new possibility at a speed and that is incredible just to think about. But I also think, what we're going to see in Australia is use cases emerge at a faster rate in more mainstream application than we see in other jurisdictions. We do have incredible growth in Brazil and India through their real-time payment ecosystems, but it's not like a mainstream grocery chain or an airline or anything like this yet that we've seen. Equally in the UK, we've got the application of their open banking ecosystem and real-time payments emerging, but we haven't seen globally like mainstream enterprise application of real-time payments. And not only the mainstream application, but a commitment from enterprise industry to resource and push hard to drive better consumer payment experiences using that. So if that starts to emerge in Australia, which I think it's feeling like this groundswell is emerging, I think the next 6 months are incredibly exciting as we see these use cases pop up. And then it's about how do we continue to drive that? We're going to see version 1, and Pay 2 is a great example. We see version 1 of Pay 2 and what that enables. And once the awareness starts to build, I think people will be all in. But what does version 2, 3, 4, 5 look like? There's a lot of discussion at the moment around consumer protection and fraud and scams and these things, which incredibly important pieces of the puzzle that will continue to evolve and tighten, that ultimately only benefit consumers and businesses as we get this right. But we need to lean into it, not out of it, to drive progress and to drive these outcomes. When we think about the reforms and the opportunity to have a voice in how we curate tomorrow and the legislation that will govern tomorrow, it's incredibly exciting. We've got the emergence of so many different things at the moment, from the consumer data right to real-time payments to blockchain and beyond, i.e. the AI and what's happening there. There is so much to evolve and to build out and in a way strengthen the proposition around what account to account and ultimately the transfer of all value looks like. And to be a part of a moment in time where that wave is building and to be able to build and support the next generation of legislation and the next generation of fintech in a way that is, as we've said before, that does all the things we need to do, provide value to merchants and consumers, but do it in a way that gives regulators and the community comfort that this innovation is being done in a considered, deliberate, safe way. That's awesome. That is really, really exciting. And so now it's just down to us to think about what are the pieces that follow from here and really support each other within the community to get behind and deliver that.